Tropical storm Ophelia strengthening, and it's got maybe another 10 or 12 hours. It might make mid-minimal hurricane before landfall in eastern North Carolina, which we will have all the latest and the impact to the mid-Atlantic states and the Northeast. Plus, we'll take you through the weekend because this is going to be doing stuff over the weekend in some places. And that's on a rare Friday night Joe and Joe weather show, although I think we've done it now 2 weeks in a row. Anyway, the Joe and Joe weather show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. In New York, they've got mulch, topsoil, and sand, and also, if you need to make sure that your home can stand up to a tropical storm or hurricane, what better time? 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. The website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Then you can take observations and not have to worry about going outside because you can monitor them on your mobile device. And you will be joining the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. Whoops. I've done that 3 times this week. And if you decide to make a purchase from the Tempest website, be it this or anything else, use the coupon code I want a weather station, and for maybe another day or two only, you get
$40 off.
And when that offer expires, you go back to getting 10% off, which is
still not bad.
Not bad at all. All right, I just had a field day today with some of the discussions when I was reading the Hurricane Center discussion. I don't know if they must have had an outage there yesterday and they couldn't watch the Joe and Joe weather show because had they watched, they might have. We talked about the fact that this was going to go over the Gulf Stream and strengthen. And actually, not to make light of it, which I really shouldn't do, but it really is pretty remarkable how quickly this thing went from being just a cold core low with fronts attached to it to a tropical storm. It basically did it in 24 hours. And you got to give credit to the global models because they really, the GFS, the ICON, the Canadian, not so much the European, had this idea that this thing was going to get all wrapped up like a tight little ball, and indeed it has.
And in fact, the hurricane hunters, after they found that Ophelia had strengthened, the folks over at the National Hurricane Center said, well, just in case this continues to get stronger before landfall, they have issued a hurricane watch for portions of eastern North Carolina. And it could very well. I mean, it's at 70-mile-per-hour sustained winds right now, Joe. So what's stopping it from going 4 or 5 miles more and reaching Cat 1 status?
Well, yeah, I mean, the pressure's down to 986 on the advisory. The 5 o'clock advisory was 986, 29.12 inches. So, another couple of millibars, and you certainly could support hurricane force winds. Who knows? Maybe it has time to form a little bit of an eye wall before it does come inland. This is a big problem. Whenever you have storms on the East Coast that come in from the southeast, it is not good. Be it North Carolina, in particular for places like further up the coast, the Chesapeake Bay. There might be some pretty interesting flooding that's going to be going on, coastal flood-wise, in Chesapeake Bay and with the storm surge when it comes in. And also, I mean, even as far north as southern New Jersey could probably see some. They're talking about major coastal flooding. The Weather Service offices for the southernmost New Jersey counties, and they even have storm. The marine version above Gale Warning is a storm warning, and you don't see storm warnings up too often, but they have storm warnings up. Because they don't have tropical storm warnings up all the way up the New Jersey coast. They're making the distinction between what's being caused by the tropical system, and then what's being caused by the pressure gradient with the high. We talked about this yesterday, Joe. I don't know why you need to necessarily delineate a difference, but that's how they do things. And either way, I mean, it is going to get quite windy along the New Jersey shore and probably even on the Long Island South Shore. Could see some 40 or even 50-mile-an-hour gusts with coastal flooding at high tide. And also, we got to see, we're now watching to see this rain band that's moving up the coast and trying to figure out what that's going to do tomorrow morning.
Well, it looks like the storm itself is going to be out over the water for a little while longer. According to the National Hurricane Center's latest plot or latest map, they've got it making landfall somewhere between Morehead City and Emerald Isle, North Carolina, at around 2 o'clock in the morning. So after that, it'll be running aground. And so it's got until 2 a.m., it looks like, Joe, to get that 4 or 5 mile extra to officially become a Cat 1. And so if it does, we may see that either at the 8 o'clock intermediate advisory while we're on the air, or if not, they may hold off on that until 11 o'clock tonight.
All right, so Joe's going to take us on some radar. So while he's setting that up, I'm just going to say a big welcome from both of us to those of you on the chat board on this Friday night. Normally people are out on a Friday night, but we decided to do our show anyway, and here we are. So if you got any questions or comments, by all means, leave them on the chat board. If you're new to the Joe and Joe Weather Show, we welcome you. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on, because we are on Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35. Usually, Joe and I do not do a show on Friday or Saturday, just so that we can have a couple of days to recharge our batteries. But given the circumstance that we do have a storm here, we do have a show here tonight, and I'm thinking we'll have a show tomorrow. Does 12 noon work for you? I should have asked you off air first, but I forgot.
Yeah, I'll be back from the barber by then.
Oh, you're getting him all cut tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, so 12 o'clock tomorrow, folks, noontime, for the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So Joe's going to be doing radars, and I'm going to be eating a piece of dark chocolate in the meantime. Hold on. You went black. I don't know why it does this.
So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to reshare again.
All right. Let's see if we can. Okay, you're there. I'm there. All right.
How's that?
It's there. It blinked a couple of times, but it's there. So it's all yours.
Very good. So this is the Weather Service radar out of Morehead City in North Carolina, Newport. And you can see that the spiral bands of Ophelia are very much in evidence, and the track of the rain areas are moving in from the east, moving across the eastern and central sections of North Carolina. And there are some embedded moderate bands of rain here. But for the most part, Joe, it seems to me like the rain is more light rather than moderate. But the main storm is now just off of the radar map here, off down at the bottom of the screen. And you can almost see the spiraling around the center of the storm down here. And the storm, again, is tracking on a path to the north-northwest and should be making landfall after midnight, sometime around 1, 2, 3 in the morning, somewhere around here. In fact, could very well be very close to the site of the radar, Morehead City, come later this evening or later tonight. So that's what it looks like down in North Carolina. Let's check out somewhere else here. Let's go to, well, I had that just now. Sorry about that. Let's go to Raleigh, North Carolina. And you can see that literally like half of the state of North Carolina is underneath the influence of Ophelia. The western part of the state is still dry. And again, all of that precipitation is moving on a track basically from east to west across North Carolina. The eastern part of the state is receiving, again, light to moderate rainfall from the storm. Let's go a little further to the north and go up to, how about Norfolk, Virginia? Norfolk, Wakefield, Virginia. And you can see that from this perspective, the area of rain is moving now more on a southeast to northwest trajectory. It is covering the Delmarva Peninsula, moving up toward Delaware, and is probably just a little way south of Wilmington, Delaware, and will be moving later tonight into the Philadelphia region. But this is the rain that is moving up the coast and will be approaching the New York City metropolitan area during the course of the night. In fact, if we go to the Dover radar, this shows up quite well. You could see that the leading edge of the rain is now working its way again up into lower sections of Delaware. South Jersey is still in the clear, but that probably will not last for very long, because I'd say in about another hour or two, southern New Jersey will be seeing the first showers or first periods of precipitation from Ophelia. Washington, D.C. is here, and they're about to get wet as well. And you can see the heaviest rains are moving on a track, well, at least in this particular case, over to the north and northeast. At least that's where the corresponding yellow or yellow-orange colors are. Here's another broad area down here, just off of the Delmarva coastline. Let's see, where else could we go? Let's I could try Hagerstown or Washington, Sterling, Virginia. Again, you can see that area working its way up through southern Delaware. Here is Washington, D.C., and they will be getting wet pretty soon. And again, from this perspective, the rain is spreading out, moving in a northwesterly fashion. And so I would assume that within the next few hours, all of Maryland will be in line for some wet weather, as well as, again, southern and central Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania. Any place else you'd like to go, Joe?
Oh, I think you've pretty well covered. Covered it. I'm going to switch to the satellite loop, which I actually added some extra frames to it, so everybody could see from when it was daytime, and then when we go to the infrared at night. At the very beginning of the loop, you can actually see the low-level center. Part of it is exposed, but it was in the process of getting tucked in under a bursting area of thunderstorms, and you see it there. What happens is as we go from the visible to the infrared, the low-level center gets tucked right under the developing convection, and that has fostered that has helped this to deepen, to intensify. Also, what's made it non-tropical versus tropical is that while it was in its non-tropical phase, when you did the analysis on the surface maps, the low center was attached to cold fronts. So you can't have a tropical system if it's attached to cold fronts, or weather fronts, cold or warm fronts. And during the day, the center became detached from the frontal boundary. The frontal boundary started moving, pretty much moved northward, and that's where you see all those east-west clouds that are fanned out from east of Virginia westward, and the high clouds that have moved up into New Jersey and on up into Long Island and southern New England. The tropical system now is in its own little world, and it did all of this today. It was well telegraphed by the weather models, which, as I said earlier, with the exception of maybe the European, which was not doing as good a job as the others in telegraphing this idea that we were going to see this system separate from the frontal boundary and become a full-fledged tropical storm. And there is time, as Joe pointed out. He mentioned 2 a.m., so we'll give it maybe it's a little later than that by an extra hour or two. Well, it's 8 p.m. It's got 6 or 7 hours. Certainly could drop just a handful of millibars, and the winds just pop up a little bit higher, and you'll maybe have it as a minimal hurricane. And you never want to catch these things when they're in a deepening phase as they're moving inland, because usually that's when they are the most troublesome. But very impressive how this thing has behaved today on the satellite, and how quickly it went from being a cold core system with pressures sitting at around 1,006, 1,007 millibars, and in less than 24 hours, the pressures dropped some 20 or 21 millibars. So that that's telling you that the atmosphere was ripe for this to become a tropical storm. We do have Joe. I want to go to the. I've got the hazards map up so that we can look at some of the observations. And right now, at Cape Lookout, North Carolina, they are 45, northeast wind at 45, gusting to 53. The buoy, which is sitting offshore, southeast of Hatteras, this buoy is at 35 north at 75.4 west, is east at 34, gusting to 45. There's we'll go further up on the Outer Banks to, this is Rodanthe, Rodantha. I don't know if that's how you say it. East-southeast at 31, gusting to 50. We have, I saw this, and I think they sent it backwards, but they have a sustained wind from the east-northeast. This is at Oregon Inlet, Joe, at the marina. Sustained east-northeast at 45 with a gust to 70. Very impressive.
Very impressive, yes.
Yeah, I mean, because that's pretty far north from where the center is down somewhere, tucked in south. What was it on the advisory? I think 165 miles southwest of Cape Hatteras and 120 miles southeast of Cape Fear. So Oregon Inlet is, that's a fair distance north of Hatteras. Hatteras right now is east at 36. I'm sorry, east at 26, gusting to 36. They're at 35.25. Oregon Inlet is at 35.8, so half a degree. So it's about 30 miles further north than Cape Hatteras, a little over 30 miles further to the north. So, getting some pretty, rather gusty winds, easterly isobars, so kind of indicates that the center is going to go south, go inland somewhere south of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Where did you mention for a landfall, Joe?
Near Morehead City.
Okay. Beaufort, North Carolina is northeast at 23, gusting to 30. And I'll just go, let's see if I can find Morehead City. Bogue Field Marine Corps Auxiliary Field, which is right on the coast, it's probably not too far from Cape Fear, is northeast at 20, gusting to 35. Let's see what inland station this is. New Bern Craven Airport, northeast at 28, gusting to 39. So we're going to start looking to see these the wind direction bend to wherever the center is as it approaches the coast during the overnight period. Further up the coast, there are actually some rather strong gusts going on in southeastern Virginia. In Back Bay, Virginia, is 24, northeast at 24, gusting to 44. And I'm taking these observations from stations that are right near the coast. So Hampton, Virginia, from Langley Air Force Base, they are 25, gusting to 40. I see a gust here of 49 at Virginia Beach. The Virginia Beach Oceana Naval Air Station there, Joe, is northeast at 29, gusting to 49. So they're kind of blowing away right near the coast. And Chesapeake Bay is fairly vulnerable here with the direction at which the storm is coming inland. With the wind, these winds are going to bend around more to the east and maybe even into the southeast, and that's going to force water to go all the way up the bay. And the Hurricane Center has pretty much acknowledged that. We've got a gust to 38 at Wallops Flight Facility Airport. We have a gust to 41 in Lewis, Delaware. Lewis or Lewes? I always forget.
I think it's Lewes.
Lewes, Delaware, gusting to 41. On the Jersey Shore, I talked to Alan Casper about 2 hours ago, and he said he was 20. He was at Seaside Park, so he was 20 to 30 there from the east. North Beach Haven is 18, east at 18, gusting to 29. And most of the winds are like 25, gusts to 25 mile 20, along the south shore of Long Island. Otherwise, everybody else is at least for the time being not really showing much from that respect. And on the wider radar view, which you can see here, we have, as Joe pointed out, you can see the center now coming into view of the radar, and you can get the whole perspective. The lead band now of rain has reached southernmost Delaware, so it's got a long way to go before it gets up the coast far enough. But there are some echoes aloft showing up in southern New Jersey and in the coastal waters to the east. So I mean, this is moving right along. I'm going to be. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes inland. Because the Hurricane Center did nudge everything a little bit further west. So I wonder if that means that the northern band of rain is going to get nudged a little further west.
Well, we'll see. As you can see, that the areas that are indicating moderate to heavy rainfall, the spiral bands are not really, near the outer edge, the periphery, the western periphery. There's a nice narrow band of moderate to possibly heavy activity, but it's the area offshore that will be interesting to watch, Joe, because the global models over the last couple of days have been indicating that the area of heaviest rainfall would approach from the south, and then just about at the time when the rains start here in the tri-state area, most of that heavier rain is going to peel off to the north and northeast. So I'm not saying that we're not going to see any rain. Obviously, we will. But the potential for maybe heavy soaking rains, if the models are correct, we may miss out on that.
Right. The 8 o'clock advisory is in. I love the fact that they still use the word bulletin, like the old teletypes. The first word that you see in an advisory is the word bulletin. We have this breaking bulletin. I don't think that's a word that anybody is. I don't think I've heard that word used professionally in news in years, decades.
Here's a bulletin from CBS News.
Right. They don't use that anymore. 33.3 north, 76.6 west. So it is 90 miles south of Cape Lookout, North Carolina, or about 90 miles east-southeast of Cape Fear, North Carolina. So now they've taken away Hatteras from the descriptor, from the distance, and now giving you Cape Lookout and Cape Fear. And the max winds at 70, moving 330 or north-northwest at 12 miles an hour, so they nudged it down a notch. The headline reads, Ophelia producing winds just below hurricane force, water levels rising along portions of the North Carolina coast. No changes in the watches and warnings. We have storm surge. I'm just going to read through these real quick. Storm surge warnings from Bogue Inlet, North Carolina, to Chicotee, Virginia, from Chesapeake Bay, south of Colonial Beach, Virginia, from Neuse, Neuse and Pamlico rivers, portions of Pamlico and Albemarle Sound, that I know. Storm surge watches, we'll go away from that. Hurricane watch from north of Surf City, North Carolina, to Ocracoke Inlet in North Carolina. Tropical storm warnings remain pretty much the same as they were when they were first issued yesterday. So Cape Fear, North Carolina, to Fenwick Island, Delaware, Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds, the tidal Potomac south of Cobb Island, and Chesapeake Bay south of North Beach. So no changes in the warnings for that particular from Maryland down into North Carolina. Nobody's been added, and nothing has been taken away. The Storm Prediction Center's got a slight risk of severe weather in southeast Virginia and in eastern North Carolina. Also want to mention that we do have a marginal risk for South Dakota, northwestern Kansas with a slight, northwestern Nebraska with a slight risk in western South Dakota, western Kansas, and eastern Wyoming. That is for tonight. And both come with the areas of 2 and 5% tornado risk. now that this thing is becoming, close to being a hurricane, Joe, with all that, and with the strengthening process underway, you got to think that there might be a few little spin ups
Yeah,
when it comes inland.
that would be the classic setup for a landfalling hurricane. Of course, not yet a hurricane, but pretty damn close to one. And as I said, maybe by 11 o'clock, it will pick up that extra few millibar drop in pressure and get up 4 or 5 miles above where it is right now, sustained to become a hurricane, Hurricane Ophelia, maybe.
Yep. Marginal risk tomorrow from north central Texas northward to Minnesota and eastern South Dakota. We have an enhanced risk in northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, and southwest Missouri, and that comes also with areas of 2 to a 5% tornado risk in the area up in Iowa. Also, we've got a 2% tornado risk for the Delmarva Peninsula, eastern Virginia, and eastern North Carolina. General thunderstorms being indicated as far north as Boston. To halfway between Poughkeepsie and Albany, into northeast PA, going southwest from there, back through western Virginia, except the southwest, and eastern and central North Carolina, except the area that's in marginal risk. So that is for Saturday into Sunday. And then as we look for Sunday into Monday, they've got general thunderstorms, Joe, cutting across Long Island Sound to New Jersey north of Route 78, Route 80-ish. From there south, all under general thunderstorms. Southern Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, eastern Virginia, and northern Virginia, and eastern North Carolina, and a marginal to slight risk across central Texas into southeast Oklahoma and southwestern Arkansas. But, you were talking about yesterday about whether there might be some convection with this, and given what's going on now with this system, I wonder whether there might be a rumble or two of thunder as this area of rain moves up northward.
Well, if we saw the omega line that some of the models were suggesting, the area of atmospheric energy that would be passing through over a 3 to 6 hour interval tomorrow, and it certainly, especially with the NAM, seem to indicate that there could very well be a rumbles of thunder. Now, the interesting thing, Joe, is that the 12Z run of the NAM kind of took away some of that this morning and brought it back for 18Z. But again,
why don't you bring up the? Let me switch it to you, and then why don't you bring up the 18Z 3-kilometer NAM and take a look at that? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Okay.
And also, I want to acknowledge that we have, I think David Fuller hit Super Chat earlier. Thank you, David. And Barry Goldberg hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you, Joe. And Joe, for your exemplary coverage of Ophelia. You might consider spending this money on my favorite Cafe Bustelo. I still have 2 packs of Cafe Bustelo in my cabinet that I haven't opened yet. Thank you. I'll add a 3rd or 4th pack with your hit of the tip jar. Most appreciated, Barry. Thank you very much. So anyway, go ahead. See if you can get the 3-kilometer NAM up and tell me what you think.
All right. Well, hold on for a second. I got to get you. I got to unminimize you and then go back to sharing the screen.
I will not be minimized.
Do you want me to share the screen?
Yeah, go ahead. I gave it to you.
All right. Okay. Now, so where would you like a close-up of? I have it on the eastern.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you run the loop here so that the folks that are in North Carolina and South Carolina that are glued to the Joe and Joe Weather Show right now, and in Virginia, can see what's going on for them, and then you could switch to the tighter northeast view. How's that?
All right. Well, here we go.
Oh, good. You got the southeast view. Oh, excellent.
So, and now this is the 3-kilometer 18Z.
Right.
And whoops. All right. And this is Saturday now, 20Z, and now we're moving into 0Z Sunday as the storm itself moves up through eastern Virginia and into the Delmarva region by Sunday morning. And now it's completely out of view here.
All right. So now you can focus on. Now you can switch to further north. I was just pretty impressed. I was impressed by how much convection it's showing here with this band that's moving northward.
Okay, well
There you go.
let's start it off here. I don't know why it does that sometimes, like a buffer wheel.
Oh, because well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that has it. I get that. I get that from time to time.
Whoops.
There you go. Now they're rolling. There's like these arms that are coming up, and you see
Look at
that?
that on Sunday.
I mean,
Sunday.
that's for Sunday too. Yeah. So here's the first. Here's the first band.
Now this is
It still has convection going through tomorrow morning. Okay.
right.
Then that goes out, and there's a bit of a lull. But now, because of the way the remnant low is tracking and holding together, going up off Chesapeake Bay and going a little further west, all of a sudden there's all this new and at the other there's an upper low here that's getting involved. So that's enhancing the convection as well for Sunday.
Let's take a look also of now this is the FGen. This is the omega, the atmospheric energy, and oh come on. I'm just going to move it by hand here. I can.
Oh, please do. I always do it by hand. Now look at that. That's for tomorrow. That's tomorrow morning.
Right.
All that FGen from Southeast PA across southern New England and southeastern New England.
Right.
And then that goes out. And now you have, for Sunday, there's probably there's a little bit of FGen there.
You can see here. There's the low right there.
Right.
There's the low, but in terms of there's a couple of little waves of FGen here, but I mean nothing like what we supposedly or purportedly going to see tomorrow morning.
No, well, the real forcing is occurring tonight with that frontal boundary shifting northward. Sunday, you've got the upper low and the surface low doing whatever enhancement that they're going to do with some of the precip. But I mean, it certainly gives pause in terms of how much rainfall is going to fall tomorrow. That to me still is a tricky proposition.
Right here is. Take a look at this. All this down here. This is the 12 kilometer NAM run. This is as of 19Z. This is as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. And if we move that by hand, come on, up, 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 up. Yeah, I even get the buffer wheel when I'm trying to move it manually.
The circle of death.
So up it comes. And there it is as of 12Z tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. In the morning. Now, I just want to show you that.
That's a weird look, isn't that? It's almost perfect the way it's shaped. It's like
right.
it's like the arc of a perfect circle, which is really very bizarre. Usually it's all messy.
Now this is 18Z. This is the 18Z run. But if you take a look at the 12Z, it's a whole different type of story. It looks like most of the activity is to the west and to the southwest of the New York area. We do get some FGen. We do get some energy moving through, but it doesn't look like it's going to be quite all that much, although it does seem to kind of develop a bit during the late morning and midday hours. But it's nothing compared to what the 18Z is showing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the 0Z. Now look at all this stuff that develops over Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Cape Cod. That would be for 0Z. That would be for 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Of course, we're totally out of it by then, but so you know what, Joe? We're soon going to transition from forecasting to simply nowcasting.
All right.
We're going to have to watch later tonight and first thing in the morning tomorrow the bands of precipitation and see where they're going, track them, and play it that way because we've been doing the forecasting and looking at the global models and the local models, the mesoscale models. In fact, before I give up sharing here,
or the fashion models, but never mind.
Let's look at the HRRR.
Well,
And I want to,
that was another of the short range models on the 18Z on the HRRR. Here, let me get you back on the screen because I just briefly switched over to WPC rainfall amounts. By the way, with 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches plus for coastal southern New England, Long Island, much of New Jersey, southern New Jersey in an area of 4 inches plus. The 2 inch line goes pretty far up the Hudson Valley and pretty far west into Pennsylvania and continues down into central Virginia. And of course, in the eastern part of the North Carolinas, there are areas here 5+ inch rainfalls, and also down in South Florida, we're seeing some heavy rains with this system pretty much influencing the weather up and down the eastern seaboard. Okay, you got the HRRR up, so go ahead.
right. So I'm going with the 18. This is the 18Z run of the HRRR.
Right, because that goes out 48 hours.
Right, right. And so if we move things along, you can see that the leading band of rain reaches South Jersey. What time is this here? This is as of one. Well, it's right about now. That's pretty close to where it is right at this moment in time at 9 o'clock.
And the radar matches up pretty well too.
Right. So we move that up. We get into the New York metropolitan area by 5 a.m. There's some precip. And then up into my neck of the woods by the time we get to 10 a.m. I'm wondering if it's actually going to wait that long to reach me 10 o'clock in the morning. But this is what the HRRR is saying. Now, notice, if you will, I said this before, notice all of this convection, all of this heavier rain, moderate to heavy rain in this one arm or one band here, and everything is moving generally to the north. However, as we move on into the early part of the day tomorrow, notice, if you will, that there's kind of a sudden break in all of this at by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And in fact, even some openings in the precipitation, that there's nothing going on. But all of that precip, that heavy-duty precip, at least according to the HRRR, is shifting now away to the east and north of the immediate tri-state area.
Well, it goes into southeastern New England.
Right.
Okay.
Now, here's another area coming up. This is as of 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, hitting or getting into Long Island. But again, nothing really of any significance for New York and especially into the Hudson Valley. And now let's see what happens here. This is the low pressure that is as of 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday over the Delmarva area. But again, a lot of the precip, a lot of the heavy-duty precip is off to the east of the Jersey shoreline here. So take your pick as to what model or models you believe in. I will tell you, Joe, that the plumes, I looked at the plumes too, and they're giving generally for New York up to the Hudson Valley 1.5 to 2 inches of rain.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
So
that's through Sunday?
That's through the end of the day on Sunday, yes.
All right. Let's see. We got the New European. So this ought to be a gem. Let's see what this does. I will switch over to my end here.
Okay.
And take a look at the European, which is brought to you by Pivotal Weather. When weather is changing, it is pivotal that you have a good model to look at. Pivotal Weather.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not. It's no surprise that I didn't do commercials for a living. Okay. So let me get a tighter view. Well, I'll run the wide view first, and then I'll go to a tighter view. So this is the low with the precip on it. And while I'm setting that up, William Uber, thanks for hitting Super Chat. Yes, we are working overtime, but thank you for hitting the tip jar tonight. You can see the northerly motion. Then it goes more northwest into North Carolina. This is now Saturday afternoon. Actually, the European takes it a little. The European makes it takes a landfall at 7 a.m. So it kind of goes along with the Hurricane Center, maybe showing that this is slowing down. Also has some of that heavier precip, Joe, a lot closer to the coast tomorrow morning. Too close for comfort, perhaps. Just touching the New Jersey shore and actually kind of skimming Long Island into southeastern New England. But again, you still get that breakaway that occurs. The low center Ophelia in northeastern North Carolina by the time we get to 11 o'clock Saturday night, and then that low just sort of creeps northward, and then during the
I'm sorry, Joe, but is there a way you can close in on the
yeah,
Mid-Atlantic?
I will do that. I just wanted to do the wide one first,
Okay.
and there's your low, kind of similar to what the HRRR is doing for Sunday. Now I will do a close up, so we'll do that. Let's go to the Mid Atlantic, and there you see it on the Mid Atlantic, and okay, so there are your echoes moving northward. The heavy rain does get into southern New Jersey, does get into a good chunk of Delaware. Then this is where I wonder sometimes when you see the radar reflections of how the models handle it, because you go from like these big, sometimes you go from these big areas and then like 3 hours later they're like this, which is much more fractured. This is at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then suddenly at 11 a.m., you see what I'm saying? They got that heavy yellow band touching the New Jersey shore and just touching the Long Island South shore. And then 3 hours later, it's just off the east end of Long Island and just along southeastern New England. The rain kind of breaks up a bit. Here comes the low for Sunday. This is at 5 a.m. It's got a couple of thunderstorms here in northeast New Jersey and over New York City. Some scattered cells also back over into Pennsylvania. A bigger cluster around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area with the low center. And this is at 11 a.m. Sunday. Rain with some patches of heavier rain. 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m. I think there's a Jet game on Sunday. If anybody's got tickets to the Jet game on Sunday, you're going to get wet if this is right. You're going to get quite wet if this is right. Now watch the track, the remnant low, up into northern Chesapeake Bay, and then turn it east across southern New Jersey and move it right off the south shore of Long Island. We're going to be in an onshore flow, Joe, for a good part of this week. I just wonder, we may not have much rain to deal with after Sunday. I just wonder how long it's going to take to clear out. We may have to do a little bit of work until there's enough dry air to come down from the north to get rid of the clouds.
Yeah, the low-level cloud cover is always difficult to scour out, especially when you have an onshore easterly flow. I went for just complete cloud cover Sunday and Monday, and for Tuesday, even though there's a nice big high located up to the north of our area, I noted that clouds gradually giving way to a clearing trend, but not until later in the day on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday look good. And then what is this, Joe? They seem to be trying to cook up another.
Yeah, there's enough.
We talked about another upper low in the southeastern states, and now they're talking about the models are kind of suggesting that there might be another coastal system to deal with by next weekend.
Yeah, the GFS on the 12Z run, on the 18Z run, it's a little further east, but since the GFS seems to have the hot hand right now, we're going to pay attention to it. It actually. It's interesting. The system, Ophelia goes out. There's a remnant low, and it looks like it kind of hooks up with the frontal boundary as the high presses southward. That frontal boundary drops southward, and then you've got another trough that's going to be doing much like this one did and trying to maybe cut off in the southeast. And this is by Thursday. You've got a low developing east of North Carolina. It's got a full-fledged. I don't think this would be a tropical system. But it sure could be a rather strong non-tropical system if this is correct by at this time next week. We may never get a Friday off again.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah. I have to show you this because I woke up and I looked at this morning and I had to laugh. So I'm going to go to the 6Z run of last night, and I wanted you to look at. Now, this is at 384 hours, but I still had to laugh at it. But there you have it, Joe. At 384 hours, okay, my thickness here in North Georgia, this is on Sunday, October 8th, is 540, okay? And that is snow, blue snow that you see in the mountains of Western Virginia and Western North Carolina down to me. So I looked at that and I laughed, and then I looked at the the upper air that went with it. Look at this trough. Okay, look at that. That's. I don't know if you could see it on the screen yet because it seems like the show's running about 5 minutes behind. But the trough that showed up on the overnight run for Sunday, October 8th in the east is truly monstrous. All right, I mean it just is true. It's beyond description, and probably very far from reality. So anyway, I just wanted to show everybody that I maybe I'll get snow before I may get snow before you do.
That's crazy, though. That really is
It
crazy.
is. It is crazy. All right, it's 8:22, and being that we've been on 5 full work days this week because we weren't on last Sunday, but we were on last Saturday, right? Yeah,
Right.
we were on last Saturday. So I think this is a good place to wrap it up, don't you?
I think so.
I know Chris Alley. I'm sorry, Chris. I forgot. I saw your question about coastal flooding for the South Shore of Long Island. I think it's going to be minor coastal flooding. I was reading through the Weather Service coastal flood statement for Long Island, and they're talking about minor coastal flooding, and I kind of think that makes sense given how far south this thing is. If this were going inland, say in the Delaware Bay or even into the Delmarva Peninsula, it might be a different, we might be having a different conversation. But I think it's because it's tucked in the way it is off the coast of North Carolina. I don't think it would be anything more than minor flooding at high tide in the usual suspect spots. Okay, so I don't think you have too much to worry about where you are, at least from what I'm seeing right now. I have to put that disclaimer in just in case something comes up that I haven't seen. So, all right.
I want to thank David Fuller, Barry Goldberg, Leon Probitsky, and William Huber for hitting super chats tonight. And so I guess we're on for noon
tomorrow, folks. Noon tomorrow. And we'll see you then.
Joe?
Yeah, we suddenly went offline. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, now we're back. All right, this is a good place to say goodbye. We'll see everybody tomorrow at noon Eastern time. Not off the air yet. I got it. There we go. Now I can hit the off button. There we go. Now I can say end stream. All right, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the 120 likes as well.
Oh, we didn't even have to ask for the likes.